Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this viewing of the Mario Super Sluggers Season 31 draft. Without further ado, we'd like to introduce to you Commissioner Ken. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm not the man you expect to see in a Hawaiian shirt in this hat, but this is a in memoriam to the late Commissioner Pete, who sadly was killed by the Kong Mafia, who have since been disbanded because of brave, valiant efforts by people on the island like Chalmers, because he was pretty much the only one that did anything. So big round of applause for Chalmers, and then we're going to take it to a moment of silence for Commissioner Pete. And another for Anthony Lynn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to welcome in our first two commentators, being as it's the Toe to Be Titan Club. With the first two picks in the draft, your first two picks are going to be announced by Gene Salami and Artus Johnson. Two very fine, very dedicated commentators. One's a little bit more controversial than the other, but actually, no, they're pretty even controversy-wise. So, without further ado, we're going to welcome in the man himself, Gene Salami.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's it for me for now. I'll catch you all later. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me here. I'm just going to sip my water right here. I'll take it with me when I have to go speak with my organization. I'm just waiting on my co-host to come here with me so we can begin our analysis. Hey, there he is. There's the guy. It's good to see you, buddy. All right. And guys, right behind us, we will have the character selection.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah. So, Artus, Season 31 draft. Season 31
I'm just so excited. I laugh when I get excited.
Me too. So,
we got some hors d'oeuvres over here.
We have hors d'oeuvres.
Yes, we do.
So, Artus, Season 31, and on the clock first, we're going to have the Toe to Be Titans Club. That countdown will start soon.
First and second.
Yes. First two picks back to back. There's a couple of names here that we could be thinking about who they're going to pick. What do you think?
100% in these first two picks. I think Peach is getting reacquired in the squad.
Do you think Peach will be one of them?
I think Peach will most likely be one of them, followed by Daisy. Or excuse me, they already have Daisy. Peach and Luigi, I think.
And with that being said, 5-minute timer has started. The Toe to Be Titans Club is now on the clock.
However, I do think it's important to mention that King Boo, and Wriggler are still out there, and they were very valuable assets for the winning team. And I think, right now,
you got to think about Frodo.
Right now, you don't really have a tie to Peach, right?
No.
Except for Daisy. Daisy's the only tie.
But with Daisy, you have a tie to Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
So Peach is not a necessity here.
Not like. Mm-hmm.
I would like to see the Toe to Be Titans Club not select Peach, go in their own different direction. King Boo are out there, both first-round talent, and I think that would greatly impact their team.
But if we don't see Peach getting selected in these first two picks, it is no doubt in anyone's mind Coach Craig is taking Peach at third.
Well,
absolutely
I spoke to
Mario
Coach Craig earlier. I don't know if Peach is going to be the absolute go-to option, depending on who's still out there. It all depends on who is on the board here.
And in reality, it's not quite as stacked a lineup as it was last year, but you still have, like I said, that triple threat that helped win that championship. And you got some nice role players. I mean, Red Magic was off the roster.
Boomerang
Bros off.
Dixie Kong.
All the Kongs pretty much except for Diddy and DK. Who else? Who else is up here? Luigi,
Critter,
King K, Critter, and
Blueonta.
some babies to tie it all together. So you still got a lot of big names out there, but not quite the star-studded, lineup that you had last season. So the first pick last season, which was so valuable that the Kingston Baseball Club ended up winning as the 1 seed at the end of the season. That was such a valuable pick, and he ended up getting a great asset from it with Boo, and I believe it was the third round.
And
it was the third overall pick,
and he won
a championship. So, picks early here, always valuable, but not quite as valuable, I don't think. And I think you're going to see, if any trades are made, it's going to be.
I was going to ask,
probably not as high.
Do you think we see a trade here early round?
I think there have been a lot of talks. But before we go in deep with that, it looks like we're going to have the first pick here from Coach Ted.
And Coach Ted is here to make his announcement.
Before I announce the pick, I do want to say that the Toby Titan Club is open for trade talks for the second pick, if anybody's interested. That being said, our first pick has been made. Once again, we're grateful to have the first selection in the draft. I feel like I should have that on a note card by now. But with the first pick in the season 31 draft, the Toby Titan Club and the Birdo Bows are selecting King Boo.
Very interesting, and that is a path that I think is crucial for them to go down. King Boo just moved up to a Tier 1 player, gets a bump in the money, pitching, batting, he's got it all.
And I think what happens next is if he takes King Boo there, Boo goes here, because Wriggler, how valuable a player he is, he's not the he's not the Boo. The Boo who has a special offense and a great pitcher. You're getting a combo of great pitchers and great hitters from King Boo and Boo. If you grab Wriggler, you're more focused on the offensive end, even though he did shine as a defensive infielder at the shortstop position this past season. But I think the second pick he's going to go Boo.
And let's think about this here. So you have to get King Boo. You don't have to get Boo. King Boo is the bridge of your chemistry there to Petey Piranha, of course, the Birdo. You have to get King Boo. Wriggler, I can see him going Wriggler. If they do that, we know they're more offensive oriented. Boo, of course, an offensive player, but he's really more of a defensive player. So what is your call here? What do you think, Optus?
Something I do want to mention, though, is that we do see a chemistry strand to King K. Rule, so it might be interesting to see if he ends up getting a bench spot on this team.
Talk about
starting spot.
Big-time
hitters. And that seems to be a theme in the past couple of seasons, big-time hitters making a big resurgence.
Yes.
And we've seen that from even guys like King Boo, who wasn't quite the big-time hitter, but he was a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
Wriggler was great. Petey Piranha.
So
everybody.
King Boo to King K.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't be a bad choice.
Looks like your organization's getting called, so you got to go down to the meeting. I'll take it from here, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we got some trade talks in the work. That's usually what happens when one of these commentators leaves. And, we're so excited to see how that pans out. As I was saying, though, Boo is, I think, the pick here. I think he's the better pick. Wriggler's such a great player, and he put up one of the best performances in an elimination game in the playoffs that we've seen from a batting standpoint. And, he's such a valuable player. Really pick it up defensively, but if you're looking for the multi-threat, it's going to be Boo. And Boo is a great combo to go with King Boo. And you're going to have chemistry between them in the two sides. Welcome back, Gene.
Yeah, short-lived conversation.
Any insight you can give us on what might have happened?
It was a short conversation. Nothing really crazy comes out of it. I can tell you that.
So can we assume that some trade talks were had for even the slightest second for that second pick?
Yes, but I'm not at liberty to give in-depth details here on television. But what I can say is, back on the conversation of what I think they should do with the second pick, they've set themselves up to go down this chemistry strain here. Going Boo or Wriggler here is the most logical idea, in my opinion. And Coach Ted is here to make his decision. Let's see what he'll say.
With the second pick in the season 31 draft, the Birdo Bows have decided to select Boo.
Very interesting. Hey,
great seeing you for these first two picks. Great predictions up there. We're going to welcome in Seymour J. Wankowitz, his first draft here. It's going to be a fun one having him up here. I am the veteran commentator, it seems, out here, but we haven't been doing this draft, this kind of draft live thing except for the past like 2 seasons, maybe 3, including this one. But we see King Boo. I'll go ahead and take him off the board for you guys to not confuse anyone. King Boo and Boo have been selected for the Borough Bows. They're not in the Mario Fireballs like it says at the top. King Boo and Boo off the board early. So the question is, where does Wriggler fit in? He's not the guy that usually goes, unless he might get Blooper with him. Wriggler, as we welcome in Seymour J. Wink, as I was just saying, Wriggler's not the guy usually to come in as a one-off player. That's something that you maybe see from Boo, because he's not quite the pitcher or the defender that those two are. So, where does Wriggler fit in? Does he get picked before the Borough Bows come back again, or is he going to be selected by the Borough Bows?
Well, sir, I do believe Wriggler is very much a wild card here. Right now, he's a person that stands on his own. Everybody he has chemistry with has been selected, save Blooper. But you take a Blooper and Wriggler combination, and that's not going to win Offensive Combo of the Year, frankly, folks.
Even though Blooper does have a nice special, but
we may see the DK Wilds decide to pick him up in one of these 5 or 6 picks. I frankly don't think so. I do not believe we see the Bowser Monsters go this way. In fact, I think we see the Bowser Monsters do one of 2 things. They are looking at Peach here. Peach is definitely an option. They do have Mario coming back on the team, but they are under the Bowser Monster, so which might encourage them to go down the Bowser strain. Remind me, is Boomerang Bro available?
Boomerang Bro is available.
Is contracted in. We could see a Boomerang Bro here with pick number 3. Reminder that the Bowser Monsters have back-to-back, and then the DK Wilds have back-to-back. So one pick here doesn't matter. They don't have to make a pick wondering if that player is going to be their next pick. Every team here in the lottery gets 2 picks in a row. This is where you build combos. It's what Coach Ted just did. He knew that he was going to get King Boo and Boo back-to-back. He didn't have to worry about where to get them. He didn't have to worry about trade talks to get them. He had them.
Yeah.
And right now, so Coach Craig has his selection of any 2 free agents up on this board. And so what we have to determine is what 2 are most valuable to him and the squad he has coming back.
Peach and Luigi. 100% the most valuable. Both have chemistry with Mario. You don't have much going in the Bowser route right now with the KSBC and the DK Wilds controlling Hammer Bro, Bowser Jr., and Fire Bro. You'd have to go into nice trade talks with them, which they haven't been caught up for, at least not yet. But, you're kind of at limbo there, because then you could go down Koopa, I suppose, Dry Bones. You can pick up Boomerang Bro again. Is not a bad option. Magic Koopa's still up on the board, or they do still have Magic Koopa contract.
I would have to agree with you, sir, that in pick 3 or 4 here, I think we see Peach go. It's the only path that has viability as you go and try to build the rest of this team. But I do believe we have Coach Craig here for pick number 3. Let's hear it.
With the 3rd pick in the season 31 MSS draft, we have decided to take Peach.
And ladies and gentlemen, I don't think Luigi's too far behind. I do not think Luigi's
Well, I might have to disagree with you there, Mr. Johnson. You see, this is something Ted won't say to you, and this is something you won't hear. But the Luigi Knights have not won since season 3, 4, 5, 6. And we heard Coach Lass say way back in season 15 that there's a reason for that. Luigi, while being a great fielder, does not have an exceptional bat. A special caught an exorbitant amount of times, and not an outstanding pitcher. The fact is, the spot of Luigi was wasted on the Luigi Knights team last season. In fact, it was a weakness. It was a handicap. There was somebody that could have been in that spot that could have won the Luigi Knights championship, and I do believe that's the main reason we see them as the Borough Bows this season.
Yeah.
I do not think that the Bowser Monsters fall under that trap and take Luigi here.
Okay.
I believe you look at who they just acquired, Peach. And with that option comes Toadette. I think we see Toad picked here. He did not play last season at all, but we know what he can do. It'll be a sleeper pick, but what has he got to lose? Who is he going to miss out on if he does with this pick, if he doesn't take it?
But then it remains, Mr. Wank here, that Luigi, I don't see the DK Wilds acquiring Luigi. No, I don't see him. So in that case, the first pick in the 2nd round is the Coach Rue Baseball Club, and then following is your squad. or your organization squad. So does he go in either one of those picks, or do you think he's just not going to get picked at all?
Frankly, sir, if Luigi gets picked, it will be by the Bowser Monsters. If it's not, Luigi will go undrafted.
Wow. And that's an interesting thing to think about. We usually have captains picked up in some fashion, 4 teams, even on the bench. But if we get one that's
Now,
just not.
don't get me wrong. It would make sense for the Titans to do it.
Yes.
And they could. The Bonobos may end up selecting Luigi late into the draft if they're filling up their bench and they just want to have him sign him. But that's an expensive contract to keep on the bench and not play.
Yes.
We'll have to see. But I think, if anything, Luigi will be a later pick in this draft, and I do not think he's picked here.
Yeah. Okay. And it looks like we got Coach Craig down here right now for his pick.
With the 4th pick in the season 31 Mario Super Sluggers draft, the Coach True Baseball Club has selected Boomerang Pro.
Interesting one. That'll do it for me here, Wayne. And an interesting pick we just saw there. Boomerang Bro off the board. See y'all later.
Boomerang Bro, we felt like they might bring Boomerang Bro back. He had excellent production last season for the Mario Fireballs. We felt like we might see him back, and we do. Mr. Salami, talk about the insight into those 3 and 4 picks. Usually when you see back-to-back picks, you see combinations. You see people pick players that complement each other. Explain the decision-making behind 2 separate strains, and where do they go next?
So Peach, an obvious pickup. It was always set in stone that if Peach fell, Peach was going to be the first to be grabbed, and I think that explains itself. Boomerang Bro, I think we have to think about the strain that the Kingston Baseball Club is going down. Heavily secured the Bowser route with the exception of regular Magic Koopa and Bowser himself. So with the Coach for Baseball Club selecting Boomerang Bro, that says, hey, we're hanging on to this. We're locked in to committing to Bowser and the Bowser Monsters, and we just have to get some chemistry for them. Now, it makes sense, but I also think that it could be a weakness because right now you're left with a lack of an outfield. So what do you think here?
Well, as I said, with a Peach pick, the only option to go from there is Toad. And that's not a terrible outfield to look at. A Toad and Peach outfield. It's unorthodox, but it's not terrible. Look at the stats here. Peach, an excellent fielding stat. Toad, not a great fielding stat, but very fast. Not going to make a lot of close plays, a lot of grabs, but going to get to the spot most of the time. May not catch a lot of home runs, but that's just got to be what the team plans around. It's a decent outfield. It's unorthodox. It's something we haven't seen before, but it just may work.
And you're correct. But to really grasp where they're trying to go here, you have to think, who is picking this team? Coach Rue Boisterous, he's back on the island. Everyone knows it. Craig, who's drafting this team? Who is the one drafting this team? Because I think that will give you a clearer picture of what way we're going here.
Well, allow us to shift focus here. In pick number 5, Coach KJ on the clock for the DK Wild. And who do you think here, Mr. Sloan?
So, I don't really know what way would be logical for them to go.
Bowser Jr., Hammer Bro, Fire Bro, Donkey Kong, and Diddy Kong. So they have coming back. Donkey Kong is a name out there that I'm going to
Of course. Dixie Kong is another one that you can think about. Defensive, she's proven herself over the past few seasons time and time again. She's fast, great fielder, she's got a great bat, and a great pitcher. All around tool there, especially if you're going down the Kong route. Other than that, I just don't know.
If it's not a Kong, sir, it's going to be Wriggler, I believe.
I agree.
I don't think it should be. I think they've got themselves into a scenario here where they can't go far down the Bowser route. They can go far down the Kong route, and I think that's where they should shine this season.
Agree.
Get those Kongs back. Build the DK Wilds team. You just won a championship. Build that team again. Do it again.
Exactly. And KJ is here to make his selection of the anticipated 5th pick. Let's see what he's got to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 5th pick in the season 31 draft, we select Wriggler. Dreadful. Dreadful.
I agree, and they're back on the clock. So,
They're back into a hole.
They're into a hole now, and they have a guy with no chemistry unless they grab Blooper.
And they have telegraphed their 6th pick.
Exactly.
It's going to be Blooper.
So,
But then look at this. Nowhere to go.
it doesn't make sense to me.
Not a
If
great
they're going to do that, they could go down the Bowser route. They could go unorthodox, go Dry Bones, Koopa, those guys. But the most logical decision would be the Kong route, and they decided to not.
Here's what happens, sir. They're going to get Wriggler.
Fellas. ladies and gentlemen, we have just gotten word that this pick has been traded.
Oh, you slide that.
The Coatru Baseball Club is now on the clock for the 6th pick in exchange for Diddy Kong.
Let me regain my composure. Oh, wow. Mr. Johnson, excuse me. Explain what just happened to us. I'm sure you have inside info. Explain what just happened to us.
Earlier today, that deal was made right there. The 6th pick for Diddy Kong straight up. We heard Bowser's name thrown in the deal, but being as they have become the Bowser Monsters, did not want to budge on him very much. So, you know, what better to do than grab Diddy Kong back for the DK Wilds, and it looks like they're trying to build down that Kong route.
Well, here's my confusion. That's an exceptional trade for the DK Wilds. It's a pretty abysmal one for the Bowser Monsters.
And I agree with that.
And where do they go? Toad would have fallen.
And I believe
Hoopers would fall.
I believe that's the consistency that Coach KJ has right now is that, you know, he's going down one route that the other 2 coaches most likely aren't. So he doesn't need that pick right here.
My
Coach
goodness.
Rue did not need that pick right there.
It was truly an abysmal trade because Coach Craig and the Monsters would have been in contention for some of these comps. You know, right here we saw a Wriggler pick. That opens up a lane. Either the DK Wilds take somebody like Dixie here or Funky. More likely, that opens the door for Dixie again. For this team that was so good with Dixie, the trade doesn't make sense to me. It frankly does not make sense to me. They're back to back again. But who do you go?
I think you may be on something with the Toad route here. They might try to do one of them swindle maneuvers on Coach KJ and draft a Kong here because it's very obvious that's the direction he's going. There's nothing else he really can do.
But why would they draft a Kong when they just traded their only connection to Kongs?
And that's the question we had with Mario last year. However, Mario ended up becoming a great player, so you don't know if.
But that's a different scenario.
Yeah.
They picked up Wario.
Yeah.
This time they had one Kong and traded it. Yeah. It does not make sense. That's like picking up Waluigi, trading him, and then picking up Wario. You don't do it.
They are severing the ties with the DK Wilds and trying to go down a Bowser strain, which they are limited to because the Bowser strain is already partly owned by the DK Wilds.
It's not a great trade, folks, and I'm racking my brain here to try to figure out where they're going. I don't know, but I can tell you this for sure. Whoever gets picked here gets picked way too high. Or gets picked high, I'll say, because they have a back-to-back. Whoever gets picked here would have dropped. They may surprise me. However, but I'm looking at every free agent name on this board, and I don't see anybody that was in danger of getting picked that they would want.
I do feel like that this season, though, that is something we were going to see anyway because there's not – the lottery 6 picks is a lot of picks. There were 4 big names up there, I'd say.
You're correct. So why make a trade?
That's the question. And I think that's when I was racking KJ's brain about it, he said, what do I need this pick for?
Well, I said it when River got picked. I'll say it again. Just dreadful. Just dreadful. Coach Craig here with pick number 6. Let's see what it is.
With the 6th pick in the season 31 Mario Supersonics draft, we decided to take Luigi.
And they're going to be back up on the clock again. Luigi there. There's not really much else to do. However, they are back on the clock.
Luigi would have fallen. Luigi would have, especially they have pick number 7. What combination are they going to build with Luigi?
Mario. And
I'm saying here, they have a back-to-back pick. What are they going to do with it? A dreadful pick. A dreadful trade. A dreadful pick. When you lost, let me remind you what has just happened here. Diddy Kong, who was an offensive threat this year, a pitching threat this year, was just traded in exchange for Luigi, who was not a hitting threat this year, who was not a pitching threat this year. You gained chemistry out of it with Mario. That's all you gain chemistry out of it with. It is a dreadful pick. Dreadful. And I do not know where they go next.
Head scratcher.
But this trade should not have been made. Should not have. Because they could have easily kept Diddy and picked up Luigi. There you go. That's something. It's not chemistry, but it's something. It is. Just a loss for words. My personal opinion is that that's a terrible decision. And you know me, folks, in my press conferences, I like to hear coaches talk it out, but we don't get a chance to talk to the coaches here. It's our job to analyze the picks that we see. And from what I just saw, that pick and that trade, this entire sequence, this back-to-back pick, awful move by the Bowser Monsters and not a great start to their season. Who do you think they picked here, Mr. Johnson?
That's the question. And I can't really predict because there's so many things they can do here. I do not know. And the question is, after this, who do the Tony B Titan Club get? And it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Probably go down the Toad route. Maybe we're gonna welcome in Coach Craig though. It's 7. Let's see it.
With the first pick in the second round, the Mario Super Slayer Season 31 draft, we decided to take Blue Pianta.
Okay. I forgot about Blue Pianta. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's not really much else he could have done there. Now, however, Gene Wilkinen, we're gonna be on the clock with Gilberto Bose. And you're gonna be your organization is now clashing with them down this route. They're probably getting Toad or Toadette. Toadette, who's been a pitcher in the past, decent back.
Toadette Birdo, yeah.
Perhaps a baby variant to go alongside with Yoshi, Baby Daisy, but they'll probably fall anyway. So
I say no, Optus. I say we see them go. Don't know. I mean, they could build something great here. If they want to go straight up power, they could go bam, bam. Chemistry there. To round that out, you get a hitter, you get a fantastic fielder.
King K. Rool is a liability. From as far as we know, unless he's developed some skills in the past season, he is a liability defensively and half the time offensively.
Well, he's an old guy. You know, old players don't develop new tricks. So,
which is why he's not going to get spot on the roster.
I would love to see it, though. I would.
However,
my personal thing.
However, we did see that from Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Extreme veteran, and look what he's doing. He's kicking balls all
Defensive
around the
player
outfield.
of the year. He's developed a new trick.
You don't know. You never know.
What's the likely route? Likely route here. Blooper, Toadette.
Do they get Blooper though? To with Blooper, decent bat, not a nice bat, star bat, but the pitching just isn't there for Blooper anymore. It used to be a real pitching threat.
I think it depends on who works with him on too.
I do, but in the later seasons, whoever has had him. So I think that's kind of soiled some coaches' minds about, I don't know if I want to use him as a pitcher, except for maybe as a fourth pitcher, maybe in the playoffs, whatever, when you don't have anybody else.
Well, who do you think they're going to? Who's your pick?
Scroll over Pete for me right now.
Peach?
Yeah. I think Toad is the man. I think Toad is your power. Toad is your power right here. You were talking about Critter and King K. Rool. Toad is your power.
Even with the coach for baseball club has Peach. Coach for baseball club has Peach. So why would Toad be their power? Which you just said.
Good question. It made no sense. Disregard that. Disregard that.
I mean, you could go Toadette. But again, that would be a pick way too high. I think Toadette is going to fall. Maybe she doesn't with the way the coach for baseball club's going. But I think this pick will tell you a lot about the mindset that the Tony B Titans organization is in right now, what they're thinking about doing. Because you pick Toadette and you're like, okay, we're going to battle coach of baseball club down the stretch. You don't, and you say, okay, we're going to go an unorthodox route. Or you can just say, screw it to everybody and battle the Carl route. Get some pitchers, but again, I don't see that happening.
I mean, their roster is pretty nicely filled right now. I think they only have 2 spots left.
And the coach of baseball club has 9 players. So, I mean, they have 9 players right now on their roster. Where else do they go other than experimental players?
And that's what. When are they going to get out of that cycle? Though? every season now, it feels like, even though they won 2 championships in the past 3 seasons, it feels like we're going to go on an experimental cycle here. When are you going to get a firm, developed team? When are you going to do it?
I think that's the coaching style. I think that's the whole coaching style. But as I asked Wake, who is truly drafting this team? Is it Coach Rue?
It feels like Craig. It feels like Craig.
Because this is a Craig team. This is a Craig field. Not very much unorthodox picks that don't really make sense, picks that,
trades in the draft that don't seem to be.
If this was Coach Rue, I think we would commit to one strain. We would see one strain going, and he would go deep. People would say that's terrible.
If this was Coach Rue, Bowser Jr. would have been acquired in that
yes,
trade.
I agree with you. But who never knows? We're going to find out a lot about where the Toby Titans mindset's at very shortly because Ted is here to announce his pick.
With the 8th pick overall and the 2nd pick in round 2 of the season 31 draft, we've selected Blooper.
Okay, and that is a name that popped up. Blooper, a guy that we talked about, and we thought about, and that makes sense. Petey Piranha and Boo, Blooper's a good player. And folks, we're already into the swing of things. The Kid and Son Baseball Club is now on the clock, and I'm welcoming up my partner, Mr. Wankwitz.
Mr. Sloan.
Yes, sir. Interesting pick in Blooper. I think it was a logical pick. I think it was 1 of 2, Blooper or Toadette. I think you could have went either way.
Well, let me give you some insight here, sir. Mr. Salami, I have my insights into who this team's going after. Every other player that the Birdo Bows are going after will drop to where they need them to drop. Blooper, I believe, was the only player they could have picked here that was in competition.
Because the Kid and Son Baseball Club
drafted Riggler. And what they've done is effectively rendered Riggler useless. He has no items. He has to hit a home run to be effective. And we saw in the latter half of the season, bar the championship, where he had 3, but we saw the latter half of the season, Riggler slowed down.
And
not hit a lot of homes.
A fielder, we keep seeing these teams push him as such a big fielder, but the truth of the fact of the matter is we need to go ahead and wrap our heads around Riggler's not a good fielder.
And his kick is abysmal.
His kick is abysmal. His dive is abysmal. He's tall. That's it.
It takes you back to 27. He was a weak fielder on that team.
Yes.
The team was dominant, and he was a great offense man, but you saw Coach Lass struggle so many times with the kick. The kick's abysmal. Riggler does not have a place on this new DK Wilds team, I believe. I believe Coach KJ might have picked him out of nostalgia.
So what does he do here? Kong, Dixie. Somebody.
Funky.
A Kong route or Funky.
Funky, I believe. Funky, I believe.
Well, let's find out because KJ is here.
That kicking combo.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 9th pick in the draft, we have selected Funky Kong.
Okay.
Stop playing.
Whoa!
No,
You're not on the clock. You guys traded this pick. Don't you remember?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Mr. Sloan, welcome back. Welcome back. This pick was traded.
Yes.
Earlier in the season.
Trade involving, I know there's been Blooper. So Coach Rue, the Coach Rue Baseball Club had Blooper. They had Diddy Kong. They trade him away, or they get them in return for they trade away the 3rd pick and Bowser Jr.
What are they doing, Mr. Sloan?
Who? Which one? The Monsters. As I've said countless times, if this was Coach Rue drafting this team, they would have acquired Bowser Jr. in that trade, as I've also said, other than instead of a pick. That would have been logical. And then they would have committed to going down the Bowser Stream and dry bones from these guys, whether it be stupid or not. That's what would have happened.
Dry bones is not a terrible pick now. When you're looking at the Monsters, and I do believe that we see dry bones picked by the Monsters somewhere, but I just question other choices they've made, such as trading away Diddy. I question that choice greatly. Now's not the time or place, though. We have to talk about this back-to-back pick from the DK Wilds, and they've got Funky, and I think it's logical that you see they have Diddy, Funky, Donkey. It's got to be Dixie here, right?
I agree. Dixie or Baby DK. that opens up some more doors with Baby DK. But I'm locking in Dixie right here for these guys. KJ is here. Let's see what he decides to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 10th pick in the season 31 draft, we have selected Red Magic Koopa.
All right. All righty. Obtuse. Give us some insight into what's going on there. Were you in that situation room while they were discussing that pick?
They do not allow me.
They do not allow you into the situation room. Okay, well, what can you give us that you know? Red Magic Cooper, yeah, fine, but and we know you want to have that core of, you know, Bowser Jr. combo back, but why?
So many other options. If I had to give a guess, you know, Red Magic Cooper, he wasn't going to get picked, but in the unlikely chance that chance that the coach from baseball club was so desperate for that Bowser strain that they got a second Magic Koopa that they put out on the wings in the outfield. You know, stuff like that could happen.
But other Magic Koopas, which it doesn't make sense to me. And we know that they're not going down that strain with another Magic Koopa because they just picked Luigi and Blue Pianta. I think it's a wasted pick. That is just my opinion. I think you commit and you go Dixie Kong here. I think you make a fatal error because if Ted comes down here right now and announces that they decided to pick Dixie Kong just for shits and giggles,
and he most likely will. And he most likely will.
Then you screwed yourself because you could have had a defensive wall in all of these Kongs that you picked.
But you know, why are we forgetting about signing Kong? We haven't seen her. We haven't seen her in a couple seasons.
You're
She's
correct.
got a nice bat. We haven't seen her pitch in a couple seasons. Probably not as good as Dixie. You know, maybe not even as good as Baby DK. But we haven't seen Tawny Kong in a while. So
you're right. But we've seen Dixie. We know her on base percentage is high.
Mm-hmm.
With her bat, her pitch, it's phenomenal.
However, something that I've noticed in my time watching these games, Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong base running when they're out in the field together. So haphazard. They are so when they're running together, you almost have to separate them in the lineup. I don't think that'll I don't know if that'll happen with Diddy and Tiny Kong. So you're almost, you know, forcing a barrier in the lineup between them because they can't really come up after each other. They always be clashing into each other between first and second base, and one of them gets out a lot of the time.
That is true. So the Tennessee Titan Club is on the clock right now with their last pick. Who did they take?
Last time?
Blooper. They took Blooper. Where do they go from here?
Do they get Toadette here? Do they get Dixie Kong in spite of
I don't know if Toadette's someone that'll fall as far in the draft as you think. You know, Coach of Baseball Club has their eye on that strength. And I can tell you that with confidence. But I don't know what you do. If you are Ted and Vince up there in the situation room, you have options. You have plenty of options. You're in a great situation where you can go down these different strains. Like I've said, and I'm praying it happens because I want to see it in the game so bad. King K. Rool and King Boo and then the Critter. I can see it happening. That's an option. You also have other options. You go to baby route. You pick a baby right here. Baby DK is someone you can draft. I mean, you can go different directions, and it's hard for me to pin it on one specific person or player because you just don't know what they're going to do. What do you think is the logical decision here?
You know, I can very well see Ted is a man who likes to take what he thinks others are going to get, so I can very well see them getting Dixie Kong here. However, you know, Toadette helps their team. I think she's a solid player. Then you open up the chemistry strand with even Blue Noki, who's a solid hitter, runner, you know, decent in the outfield if you need her. Quick, very quick. But Toadette has proven under Coach Ted before, I believe, to be a solid like starting pitcher like Luigi was last season, or even Baby Daisy. Does he get Baby Daisy? Baby Peach?
And that's someone that worked fantastic for them last season.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that,
but they're probably going to wait for her because she's going to fall.
yes. Well, whatever it is, so you think Dixie's an opportunity here?
I think so.
Okay, let's see what they got to say. Ted is here to make the pick.
With the 11th pick overall and the second pick in round 3, Roberto Bose has decided to select Dixie Kong.
My goodness gracious, there it is. Remind me who's on the clock now.
Yeah.
Okay, the Kansas
Kansas
Baseball
Baseball
Club. Wow, Obtuse was a little more set on it than I was, but Dixie Kong, maybe he was right. Ted takes what others wants. He saw a weakness. He saw a great five-tool player in Dixie Kong still up there on the board. He decided to bounce on it. Wank is back. Let's get some of his insight.
Mr. Swami.
Yes, sir. That is something that it was on my options. Like I was telling Obtuse, the Toby Times Club has endless options of where they can go. I want to see. I'm praying that I want to see them in the game. The King Boo, King K. Wool Critter kind of side go down and would fit in with their chemistry. I would love to see that happen. I doubt it will happen, but Dixie Kong, a great pick.
And as I told you, sir, last time I was up here, the Berto Bows believe that anybody else they need is going to fall. So that means if you show them a weakness, if you grab a player or if you don't grab a player where you should, they're going to take them. Yeah. Dixie Kong is one of those players that can work well by herself, and here's why. Dixie Kong, I will inform you, is the third girl on this Berto Bows team, enacting a second base, pitcher, shortstop combination against Peach on the Bowser Monsters. Coach Ted has given himself that option. I do not think this was a pick out of spite. I think this was an opportunity pick. And if Tiny Kong falls, I believe we might see them go Tiny Kong just to create that combination, make it worth something. I don't think Tiny Kong will fall.
I think Baby DK would be way more of a.
It's another girl, you see.
Yes.
Thank you. But it wasn't a spike pick. Yeah, Dixie Kong pick. It was a pick that Coach Ted didn't expect to be there when it came down to it. Yeah, and it was there.
Well, the Kennington Baseball Club, what are they going to do? What do they do? Yeah, I mean, I think you screwed yourself not picking Dixie Kong, but
you can go Baby DK here, and it's not a bad
or
pick,
Tiny Kong.
but you don't open yourself up to anything else unless you want Baby Daisy, Baby Peach. You go Tiny Kong here, and it's a risky pick. Yeah. Somebody we haven't seen, but we know Tiny Kong is good.
Yes.
Maybe Tiny Kong here. We're getting to, the end of round 3 here. We're not sure where people are going to go. All the big picks, all the big names are off the board. Now it's about shaping this team fully. Yes. And I'm not sure if they have a full roster yet. I haven't looked at the roster count yet. So I don't know if this is a bench player they're picking here or a starter. This is their 9th player. Well, so this will complete their starting lineup.
KJ's here. Let's hear what he has to say about this pick.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 12th pick in the season 31 draft, we have selected Tiny Kong.
There you have it.
And now Obtuse, Mr. Johnson's back with me. Just here we are, 13 picks in. And there's been questionable picks by every team, questionable moves. Who do you think, sir, is coming out on top of this draft after all these moves have been made, and who do you think is not doing well?
I mean, the team who looks best on paper is obviously the Berto Bows. I mean, they look great. But, on paper isn't everything in this league, and we know that. But it's hard to go against them, and I think they've won the past few drafts. But just winning the draft doesn't mean you end up winning the championship. It's just a whole different thing. It's the way the team performs. They have the better looking team right now. And I think picking Dixie Kong, you pretty much only open yourself for Baby DK. But then you've got a chemistry strain between Tiny Kong. I'm talking about the Toady B Titans. But then you open up, you utilize Baby Daisy.
Well, sir, did you hear my analysis on Dixie Kong? I know. Well, Dixie Kong, I believe, was picked for the Berto Bows simply as a third girl option for that all-peach infield stoppage. If Tiny Kong fell, I believe Coach Ted might have made a move. Do you think, the Wilds are not in a bad spot? They've got a good amount of Kongs. Do you think they're interested in acquiring all of the Kongs? Do you think they're interested in Dixie?
I doubt it.
I don't think so either. And I don't think Coach Ted thought so. We've seen in the past 2 drafts make picks have spite before trades. That's not what this was, I don't think. So where do you think now, the Bowser Monsters, who you never really know what they're going to do, where do you think they go here? I have a guess.
Possibly Toad?
That's not my guess.
I really don't know. I'm
Take a look. I believe Dry Bones might go here. I feel like if the Bowser Monsters wanted Toad, he would be gone by now.
True.
Dry Bones pairs up here with Bowser, and it also gives it an option, and it's not a terrible option, to grab Dark Bones as well, and have a Bowser, Dry Bones, Dark Bones, and a Hammer or a Boomerang Bro combination. And right there, you're looking at 4 strong hitters.
But at that point, do you maybe consider getting a second Magikarp and going with Magikarp and Boomerang Bro outfield? Possibly a lot of reach out there.
Perhaps, but we've seen a lot of these teams in the past. If they can't get all 3 reach, they go for a reach in right field, a reach in left field. And the fact of the matter is, Magikarp is not a great right or left fielder.
He's just too slow. He's too slow to do it. But he's a great center fielder.
What I really think here, and there have been plenty of people that have talked about Dry Bones and Dark Bones and said they can't do anything except hit. And that is a correct analysis. But you are talking about grabbing 4 strong hitters. If on the end of your team, you end up with 4 of them being Boomerang Bro, Dry Bones, Bowser, and Dark Bones. That is a strong 4, and then you have 5 spots to fill up fielding. If you really want, and we talked about this earlier, how you could do a Peach and a Toad outfield. If you really wanted to, you could do a Dry Bones, a Dark Bones, and a Bowser outfield. You could. It's not going to be the best. It's not going to break records. It will be a little bit innovative, but that's a part where you have to learn to sacrifice fielding for offense. It's when you really find out what these teams want to be. I don't think Dry Bones is a bad pick for them right now. And it seems Obtuse Johnson has been called away, and it's going to be me, Seymour J. Wankwist, to entertain you for the rest of this. We can only assume that means there are active trade slots, and a very, very strange trade here to come at pick 13. You got to wonder, who are the Bowser Monsters after? Who are they trying to acquire here from the DK Wilds? You have to assume it's going to be a Bowser strain kind of trade, but what kind of Bowser character can you get at pick 13? What do you offer in return? We can assume Coach Craig and Coach Rusev, as we call him now, are looking at Hammer Bro, Fire Bro, or Bowser Jr. But how do you get them? That's the question. I don't believe they have anything the Wilds would want. And I certainly don't think the Wilds care about grabbing this pick. As we saw earlier, they traded away a pick they didn't need to the Bowser Monsters, who didn't need that pick. The trade between these two early in this draft was not a great trade and didn't yield great results, I think, for either team, except, of course, the DK Wilds got Diddy, which was a big pickup for them. I don't know what we see here. I don't know what the trade discussion is. I don't know if it's going to involve this pick. But looking at who's still on the board, out of free agents only, I cannot see anybody with this pick that the Bowser Monsters would be interested in that's not Dry Bones or Toad. I simply can't see it. So here we're going to welcome back Mr. Johnson. Do you have any insight into that discussion?
Didn't seem like the deal went through.
Any implications as to what was offered, what was happening?
No, just very quiet whispers outside the room. What about you to the door?
No names.
No names I heard.
See, what we were thinking down here is that it had something to do with a Bowser strain character. And it's late in the draft. You can imagine. There's nothing that really could have been offered. If you were the coach of the DK Wilds, is there anything you're looking for here at pick 13 from the Monsters team that would allow you to trade a big Bowser strain character? Anything?
It would have to be for a player that's already on their team.
And that's what I'm saying. Anything. Is there any player on that team that you would be interested in grabbing if you were coaching the Wilds?
You know, you've got guys still in the roster like Wario. One of the better one-off kind of characters, because he really only has one chemistry strain with Waluigi, and he had a great season last season when we all said that he wouldn't fit on that roster. That's the only person I'm looking for. You're not going to be able to grab Bowser. The other people he has under that Bowser strain, I don't think are valuable enough.
So you said Wario.
Potentially. That's the only person I could see them.
That's an interesting trade to be made, and that might be a trade made in the future. It's not a bad trade for either side. With that being said, pick 13, Coach Craig is up to announce it.
Whew. With the 13th pick, we did a lot of thinking. We decided to go with the safe route. Had somebody chewing in my ear. We decided to pick dry bones.
Coach Craig giving us a lot of extra information.
Yeah, Joey went there. Dealing with the
Guess we know who's in charge of the team.
About
Don't
two.
know what that's about.
Jesus Christ. That being up there in that situation room in the country baseball club gives me a headache. Big personalities, a lot going on up there. But anyway,
And I doubt they're happy.
they're not. They're not. They're not.
They are currently the least Bowser Monsters I think we've ever seen.
Well, and I don't think one of the people cares. I'm not spitting out names, but I think the other person who's the biggest personality the league's possibly ever seen cares a lot, and that is causing a lot of clashes.
And I think that Coach Craig has made the Bowser Monster. He's given the Mario Fireballs touch to this Bowser Monsters team, which is never the route that Coach Drew went before. He built a Bowser Monsters team, but Coach Craig said, "Let me grab a ragtag group of guys around this one guy, and we'll just see how they all fit in together."
Which, like we talked about earlier, it tells you a lot about who's really drafting this team, and I think that will cause some conflict down the line, for sure. But with that being said, Kentucky Titans are now on the clock. Dry Bones was taken. I really don't think that was a bad pick. I don't think it was a bad pick, but I think if you're going to do that, you do it earlier. I think, and I think that you make different moves to set yourself up to go that way. Maybe a Bowser Jr. trade or something earlier on instead of Diddy for a pick.
But you know for a fact that Coach KJ would be requiring an arm and a leg for Bowser Jr.
Well,
The way he performed in the championship last season, and the fact he's locked up for another 2 years or so alongside the Bros and now Red Magic Koopa, it would have been a lot to take him away. And
but the one person who could do it is obviously not at the helm of this team right now. And I think Coach Rue would have had a better chance of doing it than Craig, but Craig's going his own direction right now. And I mean, we got to trust him. He won 2 championships.
doing that exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But,
Has that luck run out? He didn't even make the championship this season.
Exactly. So now the Toady V Titans are on the clock, and we talked to Wank earlier, and he said that, they've locked up 3 girls in the infield to combat Peach. What do they do now? Toadette is another girl. If they're looking girls, Toadette's another girl that they can think about. Toadette, chemistry on the team, she fit in there.
Baby Daisy.
Baby Daisy, another one that this organization is really high on. So, and Baby DK would give a chemistry spot, I think, for Dixie. Yeah, so you could go many different routes here. You could have one fluid chemistry strain with, Yoshi, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
How you do that, I don't know with all the other people you have on this team, but it's possible. And I think that is the most logical solution. At this point in the draft, usually the picks start coming in a little quicker, but they must be doing a lot of thinking up there. What do you think they're thinking about? What do you think they're doing? Are they running through their options? What's going on?
And something I want to bring up before I go into that is the fact that, you got to wonder if maybe the coaches might limit themselves a little bit on the players they have in their bench this year, because you now have to pay the signing bonus to those players who you get even later in the draft like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can cost you an extra, $3,000, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's an extra $3,000 that you're talking. So at one
Especially
point,
with teams that are going big contracts like the Turkey Titans.
if you know you're going to end up dropping them, do you want to spend the $1,000? So when are you going to forfeit the rest of it?
Exactly. And remind me, how many picks, how many people on their roster right now does the Kennesaw Baseball Club have?
Kennesaw Baseball Club are 9 right now.
9?
They have 9 players.
Okay. I think the Coach Baseball Club is at 11. They usually have the most on their roster,
Yes.
and because they usually have the most room with their slow contracts.
And I think that ends up being the downfall of them, because they can only, if you have so many people on your roster, you've got to give them all 1-year contracts. You can't give so many large contracts out, which has been giving them a never-ending cycle of 1-year contracts.
players that you can't spend big money on anymore. Once Mario's gone, off of that, they use Luis Rios on them. So what's that mean? He's back for another 2 seasons or whatever?
That and he
Or
doesn't
he's a
factor
captain
in.
deal,
He
right?
no, he's not.
Oh,
He was, but is not. And it's Luigi Wrights now. So Luigi Wrights.
So he backed out of the captain deal or whatever.
Luigi Wrights is now. It doesn't factor into his cap space. So they have a lot more room now to do what they need to do. But as far as the Titans Club goes, they could still go many different directions. And Ted's here to tell us what direction they will go. Possibly.
With pick number 14 and the second pick in the 4th round of the season 31 draft, the Bird Bows have decided to select Green Shy Guy.
A name that fits in chemistry-wise, but a name we didn't even think about. Green Shy Guy, interesting choice.
And you know what? I know exactly why they make the Shy Guy pick. Bunting.
Bunting is a great.
Who has utilized bunting like Coach Ted? Coach Craig has, but probably not quite as effective, I would personally say.
And I would completely 100% beg to differ, obtuse, but that's what we're here for. Personalities, we can have differing opinions. But Shy Guy
is the bunter in the league. He's the number 1 guy.
All right, Shy Guy's great.
Yep. Mr. Sloman. Welcome back. So, the pick there by the Bows, Green Shy Guy.
We saw him do it last year, and then he didn't make the main roster. He didn't make the
Because
roster.
Shy Guy was a pick made after the roster was filled. It was filled with so much captain talent. There was no room for Shy Guy. But this was the 8th pick. I think the 8th spot on their roster is now filled. So they have one more spot.
Do they have any desire to go into their bench here, or are they stopping at 9?
It remains to be seen. There's not a Yoshi variant signed to the team yet. We usually see any variants that they know they can acquire signed in free agency. We have to assume that's going to be the 9th spot. At this point, anybody you draft grabs that bonus, but it's just for shock factor. It's just part of it. And when you head into round 5, as we're about to, this last pick of round 4, it's 1,000 to signing bonus to give it to him. You just make the pick to make people gas at this point.
Yeah.
And word has it, that's what the Bird Bows are going to do in round 5. What do you think's happening here?
Shit if I know. I have no clue what they're going to do. I don't know what they will do, what they could do. Baby DK.
We're this late into the draft, and that's as good a guess as ever.
This is a talented Wilds team.
It is. It is.
But I think there's still a piece missing. With your outfield being as it is with the Bros, I think you need a solid infielder as well. Still on the board. There's a bunch of them, but who knows?
All the critters are out there. Not a good move for the Wilds.
No, maybe for the monsters. Or, if you go keep the rule that strand, you can take a critter and have chemistry. Anyway, KJ is here to make his pick, and I think there's only one. One next.
Ladies and gents, with the 15th pick in the season 31 draft, we selected Critter.
All right.
Dreadful. Dreadful.
Mr. Johnson, do you want to explain to me why your organization made a pick of one of the only negative chemistry people they could get for the DK Wilds? The Wilds and the Critters do not mix. Explain this picture.
They filled up 9 spots in their roster already. The Critters going on their bench. Maybe they're just saying, why not?
Well, let me explain something. If these critters are played, or if this critter is played, we're assuming they're going to grab more, but we don't know. If this critter is played, he's played in the infield. Funky is at first. Donkey's at second. Critter at shortstop. Any throw he makes to the right side of the field has potential for bad chemistry. You cannot build a calm team and then upend it by grabbing a critter. And I agree with you. This may have just been a bench pick for shockers, but I don't feel like anybody in this league has ever made a pick just for shockers. I think they've always made a pick with intent to use. So I'm wondering where they expect to use Critter on this team if he plays.
I guess they're thinking a kick doesn't have bad chemistry. So if he plays infield, they're okay.
It does, sir. It does, sir. A kick to a player with bad chemistry can go wrong.
Oh, okay, okay. But anyway, I mean, it's still an infield. We saw it with Luigi and Waluigi. Waluigi at first base, Luigi was a shortstop. I mean, that may have hurt him a couple times, but it was never enough to really make a big difference in the game. So maybe you're thinking down that route. It's like, it might mess us up one time, but.
And we're headed into round 5 here, and this is usually the time where people make a pick and then say, we're done. Do you think this is the Bowser Monsters' last pick, and who do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. And I've gotten way past the point where I can guess because this is just like wild card rounds here. I mean, these are people that are going to be in free agency that they can go sign anytime, I think. And, we saw Green Shot guy go off the board. That's somebody that you could have waited and gotten free agency, but you never know who they're going to pick. So we're going to welcome in Coach Greg.
Hey. With our 16th pick in the C31 draft, we've decided to take Toad.
So finally, Toad goes off the board. Gina.
Yes, sir. And logical pick there, I think. That was their 10th roster spot.
That was like the last person.
And I've got word that they're going to make one more pick, and then that's it.
Toad.
Well,
maybe Blue Noki. Make that outfield with that'd be an interesting thing to see. Coming back from the Peach Monarchs of a couple seasons ago, you got Wolf Johnson.
One of the greatest teams you never won.
Truly.
So, Tony B. Titans now on the board. Wayne told me when we were up here earlier that get ready for a shock factor pick. I don't know who's on the board that you can make a shock factor pick for right now. Maybe, I don't know.
Just gotta wait and see at this point. That's how it is with these later rounds. You can never predict.
Exactly. Any info on what the Kansas Baseball Club's going to do? Is their draft over? Are they going to make another pick?
There's really only one guy I can see getting picked, and that's
Baby
DK
D.
Rule.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Baby DK. Baby DK has been the weaker of all the comics that we've seen as of late. He hasn't really gotten his bat going. He's a liability defensively a lot of times just because of how small he is. And that's a problem you get with Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong, too. I mean, they don't have the kick that, like, Donkey Kong and Funky Kong do. Baby DK is just a small person. You're not going to make the kick like you are with the big guys. And a lot of the times he just comes up as a offensive liability, whereas someone like Tiny Kong, we've seen can hit a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And we've never really found a good medium for Baby DK. Do we no charge special with him? Do we just slap it? Do we charge special? Do we just hit it? A lot of uncertainties there. And I don't know if they're going to draft him if they really don't think he's going to be placed in the starting line. So I think right now it's a competition. He's probably not going to draft past this next spot, I'd imagine. You just maybe feel like Keith K. Rule. It's like, hey, if he looks great in practice, we might dish out 2 spots and fit him in someone.
I agree with
But
you.
where?
Hey, well, there's always a preseason, and I think we see things like that happen in the preseason. Whether it makes the roster or not, I don't know.
But just imagine the threat that Critter can have with that already big dash outfield. Let him take the spot that Wriggler had, for example. Maybe Wriggler comes out the game for Critter. You get a big hitter,
think you got a
but then
better
you get a
fielder.
fielder. Yeah, you never know.
Ted is here with his pick. Let's see what they decide to do. Will it be their last?
With the 17th overall pick of the draft and the second pick in round 5, the Roberto Bows have decided to select Joyce. She is a female green me.
Oh, my God. So it seems as if a citizen from the island is qualified to play here in the league, and they've decided to go with it.
Wasn't that a rule last season that you couldn't have a me on your
You
team?
just can't have a coach on your team because that doesn't make sense. You can have me, stupid asshole, too. And we're allowed to have me. Citizens are allowed to qualify and play. Even on the
Whip.
island.
Joyce. Dreadful.
But it's a woman. Another woman. And Ted is smart when he comes here. Decent pitching.
He drafted a woman me. A woman me. Nobody would usually think to do that. But he said, I have an extra spot here that I want to draft. I know I want to draft me. Make it a woman. It can only help you against Peach.
Yes.
He has built an arsenal against Peach. Because he already has Birdo and Daisy, who we assume are going to start every single game. And they already have chemistry. So that's an infield.
Yeah. Well, the Kid and Son Baseball Club's here later in the draft. Let's see what they have to say about that. Great pick.
Ladies and gents, 18th pick in the draft, and it's going to be our final pick. We're going to select King K. Rool.
Right. Anderson K.
Hey,
Do you want me to just make the last pick?
I have a pick.
Oh, you have a pick?
Yes.
I thought you were done.
No.
Mr. Johnson, I don't know who to do here. I'm not going to lie to you.
I've been done guessing a long time ago.
Did you not guess Joyce?
Not quite. I have no clue who the broad is. I hate to break it to you, but and that's not in any sort of offensive way. I mean, I have no clue who she is. We got there. Yeah. Just another day in the office. It really seems like.
I don't believe Joyce is created yet, but we'll go ahead and just grab a green bean to showcase what's happening.
Okay.
So take a look at this.
Isn't that a light green color? Oh, wait a second.
What color is he? Show me him. Is he light green?
I think he's red.
No.
What?
Oh, my entire day has just been ruined by this revelation. No!
I think that's a light green color. That's probably what he is.
He's not light green.
Isn't he blue?
No. Look at his hat.
Can you change the hat? Can you put the hat a different color?
No.
Sorry, guys.
Why do you have chemistry with green Shy Guy? Why do you think I picked green Shy Guy?
Oh.
And green me to connect to green Yoshi. Coach Greg,
He's here. Actually,
This will be our last pick. We've decided to take Jerome me.
fucking copier. Copycat.
Yep. I guess that's what the league has come to now.
I'm gonna fix this mess I made.
I'm actually getting word from over here that I'm sorry. I don't believe you can do that, sir. KJ was saying he had another pick he wanted to do, but he said he already forfeited the rest of his picks. So that's a shame. That really is a shame.
If he does decide to go into free agent, it will be at the cost of the fee that you have to pay,
Which is
$50,000.
$50,000. I think they can afford it.
I think they
I
can
think they
do.
can afford
We had a peek into the bank accounts of these organizations, but Commissioner Ken / owner Ken is the most well off. The most well off out of all of these Yeah. 7 figs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
6.
7.
7. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do
Obviously, Johnson's probably the most stupid person up here out of the commentator. Veteran commentator, senior commentator in name only. Yeah. They said they had to go fix. Actually, Wank said he had to go fix a pick he made earlier. I don't know why Wank is making the picks. He did say that.
That's an odd one.
Yeah,
to hear.
but I guess that we could see a correction here on this pick. Maybe another citizen from the island decided to join. It was a great idea, though. Having a woman citizen from the island to go with all the other women in there. Maybe wrong color, but I guess we'll see.
KJ very much wishes he did not forfeit the rest of his picks because this would be the biggest shock value pick of all.
You could go another thing. You'd have a King K. Rool critter outfield.
That'd be interesting.
Or 2 critter outfield with the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's taking so long. Really.
Yeah. I don't really. Yeah.
The viewers are getting a little bit impatient. I don't know.
Got time for
About 2 for
dinner time for old Mean King, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Don't put me on the Reddit.
Yeah, can you move your feet out to us, please? It's really. So let's just jump into a little bit of some off-season antics here. Are you doing a show this season?
I don't know. Will somebody die again and reappear?
Well, I don't know. I think there's plenty of subject matter to carry on the show. I think now's the time to announce I will be hosting a Mean Slugger special very soon, possibly after the draft. And I will have a very special guest.
I think we all know that's going to be.
I don't think we do.
All right, well, it looks. Oh my goodness, he's nude under the coat. But
Ted's here.
Let's grab him in. It's Ted.
So their correction.
This is going to be our last pick.
Don't do it.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Say it, Ted.
You don't want to say it. Say it.
Say it.
Say it, Ted. I miss his dinner reservation.
We're going to be taking Jilly.
Okay.
She's a purple meat.
For Waluigi.
I don't know why y'all keep calling them needs. They're citizens here on the island that are here
Well,
and try out and play.
They're called meats. The citizens of Mario Island, they're called meats.
Whatever you want. I've never known them as that, but whatever you want to say. I'm going to continue to
What do
call
you think
them
me
just
stands for?
citizens. What do they say? What do
Mario Island inhabitants.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I need to go back to
Well,
school, I guess.
That's going to be it for the draft here,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen. That was the last pick. Got a little bit rough around the edges there at the end.
Can you move so I can say bye? Thanks for tuning in. It's been a great draft.
Catch y'all next time. Thank you.
God, I did not expect